now let's discuss the feud that you are watching the entirety of Fastlane just to see unfold. The most exciting and exhilarating match on the entire damn card. The Big Show, Kane, and Ryback versus the Wyatt family. Now, to be fair, nothing about this storyline really stood out as particularly bad or stupid, other than the fact that Big Show is making yet another babyface turn, and he has no problem teaming with Ryback, even though they were just recently in a grudge feud together. And yeah, there's not a whole lot of weight behind Bray Wyatt's words when he says he wants to take on the Titans of WWE. If there was any truth to that, he would go after The Undertaker again, except The Undertaker kicked his ass in under 5 minutes at Survivor Series. Or he'd take on Brock Lesnar, who is the Titan of WWE, except WWE has no faith in the Wyatt family right now, so they decided to put an axe to that plan for WrestleMania. So no, they're going to go after the jobber Titans of WWE, Big Show, Kane, and Ryback. But alright, I think it started off as more of a Braun Strowman versus Big Show thing, and I actually could understand the appeal of that. I'd even be sort of interested in watching that match, except then they wisened up and realized it probably would not be very good to have that on a pay-per-view. It would not go over well with the fans at all, so they decided to bring in the rest of the Wyatt family and give Big Show some reliable allies in order to hopefully make something watchable. And it was mediocre. It wasn't bad. Honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. The way this match played out, though, was strange, and the finale was almost infuriating. But here's how it plays out. Luke Harper carries most of this match. Bray Wyatt he's not even in the match. He's just sitting out on the outside. Luke Harper, I think Kane is like the babyface in peril. And I thought that was really weird, but whatever. Big Show is barely utilized at all. And that confused me, considering I do believe that Braun Strowman and Big Show's feud together is sort of like the core and what probably we will get eventually. But no, Big Show's mostly on the sideline. And it's also weird because he is getting the best babyface reaction of the three. That really surprised me and maybe made the babyface turn worth it in the long run. This is more prominent the following night on Raw, where he was getting pretty loud "Let's go Big Show" chants. But for the most part, he's not even in the match. Ryback at one point gets in and starts just beating the crap out of everybody. And at one point, I think Michael Cole described him as almost like a cruiserweight, which made me laugh. But hey, I'll give the guy credit. He is very aggressive, and he is moving very quickly for such a big guy. Unfortunately, he lost all of that goodwill by botching the finish, which looked like it seriously hurt Luke Harper. I don't think he did, because Luke Harper was in the match the next night, but it looked pretty bad. But really, it was just... Braun Strowman, actually, that's another person I gotta give some praise to, though. He did not suck in this match. Usually can't even get punches right, but I was perfectly fine with how he moved and how he acted here. Like I said, I do hope the guy gets better, because I do see potential if he does get better. And so, yeah, he looked at his best in this match, but still, it was very slow-paced. The only real spot that stood out was when Big Show power-lifted Luke Harper up and threw him outside of the ring. That was pretty awesome. But otherwise, it was kind of dull, and it could have easily been on the kickoff match. Another one. And yet this is not the worst part of the pay-per-view. So still more mediocre than bad, but not really worth watching unless you really, really like the Big Show and crew. Following this, we have the Divas Championship, Charlotte versus Brie, and this sucked going in. But I understand why WWE did this, because Daniel Bryan's retirement, I think, caught a lot of people off guard. And it was a very sad, but at the same time, very moving moment when he announced that on Raw. funny, inspiring, and tragic all at once. And they decided to use that to get some sympathy towards Brie. I don't blame them for that either. And it seemed like, yeah, this is making Brie a lot more popular, mostly out of sympathy for Daniel Bryan. And I could understand why they chose to give her this spot as the number one contender, because she's going to have a lot more momentum right now than she has ever before. Unfortunately, this was at the expense of the Charlotte versus Sasha Banks story that we all wanted. And my bigger problem isn't, though, with Brie being put in the title scene. My problem is that they've done a very piss-poor job at building her up. Maybe not quite as bad as Tamina and Naomi, but at least they aren't in the Divas Championship scene right now. Brie, for the most part, has been used to lose to the people who step up to, challenge the actual champion. So she just does not seem credible in this role at all. And I would have been pissed if she somehow won. She didn't, thank God. How the fuck did I forget to talk about that? And the Big Show, Kane and Ryback versus the Wyatt family match. Wrong team went over, and every time I think that the Wyatts cannot sink any lower in terms of credibility, they then lose to the Big Show and Kane. Oh, I know that they won the following night on Raw, but that's just damage control, and it's too late. They lost most of their credibility when they lost in under 10 minutes at Survivor Series, and they were crushed in that match, but now they're losing to the Big Show. It's over for them. They might as well just pull out the dancing comedic jobber routine that we know is destined for them, because I cannot take them seriously at all anymore. I keep saying that, but I keep getting surprised at how they just continue to sink lower and lower. But moving back onto the Divas Championship, so this kind of just felt forced. But I will say this, at least the interactions between Brie and Charlotte worked. Charlotte made for a very convincing bitch, and Brie was actually sympathetic. So even though Brie has no charisma and she's not very good on the mic, she was adequate in that role, and therefore I kind of wanted to see her kick Charlotte's ass. But on the other hand, I don't want Brie to be the Divas champion at this time, so I'm kind of glad that she didn't. In my opinion, they should have spent more time rebuilding her credibility and then give her that match, not necessarily at WrestleMania, but the following pay-per-view I would have been fine with. And the match itself wasn't very good. It could have been worse. It was decent for a Brie match, but not very good for a Charlotte match. It seemed like the main problem was Brie kept trying to pay tribute to Daniel Bryan, and she kept using a lot of his moves, but failing at them pretty badly. Forcing them to improvise, and sometimes that ended with mixed results. Sometimes, yeah, they did it smoothly enough to where you could kind of buy it, but other times just looked so clumsy and awkward, and I felt embarrassed for both. Even though at least it moved fairly quickly, it didn't drag on for too long. I hated the way they'd mock each other too. I thought Charlotte overdid the yes chant mocking, and I thought Brie's attempts to do the Ric Flair strut was really, really dorky looking. So I did not really like this, but the Divas division has seen worse, so I would have much rather watched it on Raw, but I could almost forgive them for this. Another thing too is Brie's selling is really weird. At one point, she receives a neck breaker, practically no-sells it, but then when she drop kicks Charlotte off the turnbuckle, maybe she really did hurt herself in real life, I don't know. But then she starts selling a knee injury, and then at the very end, when Charlotte reverses her submission and gets on her figure eight, Brie taps out really, really quickly, and they try to cover for her, saying that maybe she hurt her leg when Charlotte broke out of her submission, but it was not very well handled. following this, a match we all actually want to see. AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho. I actually liked how this story played out. I thought the way the Miz was used was very effective. How he kind of, fanned those flames. I still think the Miz is underutilized in general. He gets his ass kicked way too much. But I liked how this played out, and I thought their matches have been really good. And I was actually interested in seeing this match. Whereas with Dolph Ziggler and Kevin Owens, yeah, they put on an entertaining match, but I didn't really feel emotionally invested, so I can't really say I was fully interested. This one I actually was, totally into, and it actually did such a good job at making me wonder who would win. There were times when I thought Chris Jericho would win. There were a lot of false finishes. Some didn't work. Like I thought Styles Clash being kicked out of was a bit too early, and now I can't really take that finisher as seriously, considering it's not like Jericho has ever been John Cena in terms of recovery times. But so that annoyed me, but still, like, I really felt like they were really trying to hurt each other. You really felt the competitiveness of this match, and it moved really quickly, and they had an interesting arsenal of moves at their disposal. I liked how it seemed like Chris Jericho was having difficulty keeping up with AJ Styles, which probably is just true, considering Chris Jericho is kind of getting up there in years. But at the same time, Chris Jericho had more strategic maneuvers that sort of balance things out. So whether that was intended or not, they smartly were able to cover that aspect up. And it just ended up being a very exciting and interesting matchup. A lot of unconventional stuff here. I would strongly recommend you watch this match, even if you skip the rest of the show. This is easily the highlight of this pay-per-view. Unfortunately, now things get really, really, really fucking shitty. Oh, God. The Peep Show. Edge and Christian talk to the New Day. And some parts were funny, other parts were not. But generally, I just thought this was more awkward and overlong. The New Day starts bashing all the other tag teams, heels and baby faces alike. And that pisses off the League of Nations, who come out. And this confused me because who is supposed to be the babyface team here? You'd think that, well, the New Day is obviously going to be more popular. So it would be them. Except they kind of bow out in a very cowardly fashion. So they aren't really sympathetic. The League of Nations, on the other hand, they're just acting like bullies. At least Wade Barrett gets to say something, though, so I can't hate this segment totally just for that alone. But, so you don't really sympathize with them either. So I was just left confused. Who am I supposed to root for here? I don't know. What is this leading to? I hope it's not leading to a babyface turn between either team, because they're just not ready for that yet. But at the same time, if it doesn't lead to that, then why was this here? It was totally pointless. This is another thing that could have easily been on the kickoff show. So I thought it was more lame than funny, and it was more confusing than anything else. Yeah, I never thought I'd say this. Sheamus actually got to steal the show momentarily when he actually deflected the "you look stupid" chants onto the New Day. That was legitimately funny. But otherwise, I thought this was a flop of a segment. And yet, it's about to get fucking worse.